We are so excited to welcome Nico, the co-founder of the Fuego app. Last year, Nico dropped out of his bioengineering degree at Imperial to build this app.
It's quite interesting because in our generation, Gen Z, we travel very compulsively.
Yeah.
Like, I went to Spain last week, booked the flight the day before, and then left the next day.
Yeah.
At the same time, we want really good value for money. So it's like a sort of contradiction between the two things.
Fuego uses artificial intelligence to give users personalized on-demand itineraries while traveling. Last year, Nico joined a Google BGN hackathon where he demonstrated the first version of the Fuego app. He met an investor who said the app was a great idea, but he would only invest if Nico and his co-founder left their studies to work full-time on Fuego.
One thing about me is I'm an all or nothing kind of guy. Like, so I said I want to do Secret Service. I went to military school in France.
Oh my gosh!
I think it's always this thing of, I always go 100% in everything that I do.
Now at 21, Nico and his co-founder are heading up their 15-person team in Soho as they work together to revolutionize the travel industry. We are so excited to hear Nico's phenomenal journey. Nico, welcome to the Nova and Boba podcast.
Thank you very much. Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So what are you drinking today?
So is this the coffee vanilla Boba? This is my first time having bubble tea actually. So
Despite living in Japan,
living in Japan, but this is amazing. I'm gonna have some more Boba definitely in the future. Yeah, very good.
This is how we like to start the podcast. We do a little icebreaker.
Okay.
And by your bubble tea order, I like to analyze the type of person I think you are.
Okay.
So actually, Nico said I could make his order.
Yep.
So I ordered a vanilla.
Yep. It's a good choice.
Yeah, just because if it's your first time having bubble tea, I didn't want anything too adventurous.
Yeah.
So I thought vanilla was a good shout. And what I think people who like vanilla, they're calm, they're relaxed.
I think that's kind of true. Yeah.
You know that's calm, that's true?
I think that's kind of true. Yeah.
You take things at an easy pace.
Yes, I think so.
So would you say this analysis is fine?
Yeah, this is amazing. This is amazing. What are you having?
I'm having matcha.
Matcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's actually from Japan. So bubble tea is from Taiwan.
Yeah.
Matcha is from Japan. Just helps me feel calm and focused, and it doesn't give you that jittery feeling. It's like as much as coffee. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's like
for
slow
sure.
release.
For sure. What does matcha tell me about you?
Good question. That, I'm quite cultured because I like,
Fair enough.
But
fair enough.
yeah, because I like the Japanese influence and things like that.
Sure.
So yeah, I think that's what it tells you. So the first section of the podcast is called 0 to 6 months. So we want to know everything you did from 0 to 6 months to get your idea of Fuego off the ground. This is to give listeners of the podcast really actionable insights that after they finish watching the podcast, they're like, I can do this, this, and this to sort of begin my own journey. So in your own words, what is the Fuego app and what problem does it solve?
Okay, sure. So the Fuego app, it's quite interesting because in our generation, Gen Z, we travel very compulsively.
Yeah.
Like, I went to Spain last week, booked the flight the day before, and then left the next day.
Yeah.
So we travel really compulsively.
Because flights are so cheap as well.
Exactly. But at the same time, we want really good value for money. So I went to Barcelona. I wanted to do as many things as possible, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is it's like a sort of contradiction between the two things, right? Because you book so compulsively, you don't have time to plan. Yeah. So the idea is that Fuego is the kind of app that you'd be able to use to plan your trip during your trip, if that makes sense, or the day before, right? So the way it works is you can scroll through activities to do in your trip in video form, as you would on TikTok. Like our generation, a lot of people use TikTok.
Yeah,
82% of people use social media to plan their trip.
They search through social media, apparently, over half of Gen Z now, rather than Google.
Yes, so you can browse through activities in video form. You save them into collections like you would on TikTok. And then we can take that collection and say, okay, we'll plan your entire trip. Like, you do this at 8 a.m., this at 10 a.m.
I totally agree with the compulsive travel because everything, like normally you have to book things you want to do on holiday like weeks in advance to get spots, especially in London. Like my friend actually came to visit from Nottingham to London and everything was like kind of booked. So if we had an app that showed you things we could actually do in real time, That would have been really helpful.
Exactly. I mean, the idea is you can use Fuego not only when you're traveling, but also as a local.
Yeah.
Because what tends to happen is I always go to the same places and never go to new places, right? So the idea is you can also use it as a local, should you wish to do that. It's quite interesting. We have this feature. It's like a chat bot, and you can say, oh, I'm planning a date for tonight. I want it to be in this area. Like, what should I do? This is my budget. And then
this is the budget. Even measures budget.
Even the budget is in the app.
That would be helpful. So, yeah.
For sure.
So, what is your role within this company?
So I'm the CEO and founder. And then I founded a company with my co-founder, Matt, which we spoke about briefly. Matt and I have known each other for like three years. We did Imperial together, and we both dropped out to work on this full time. Which has been good fun, and we live together now.
Yeah, and I want to know, like, so the first time you had the idea of Fuego, when was that? I know we touched on it briefly, but then kind of think about the thought process of like dropping out your degree. Like, did you chat to anyone about it? Did you just go, you know?
So Fuego started during the hackathon, actually. So we did the Google BGN hackathon. That was based on an idea which is now part of Fuego, but it's not something I've mentioned so far. But just because it's not really solving a problem, right? So the idea was that people could share like voice notes at specific locations. And then it was called In Your Footsteps, because the only way for someone to like listen to the voice notes that you've left and like hear your story is to go there and walk in your footsteps. That's right? Really lovely. Yeah. So we still use that. In fact, we're going to be in Paris for the Olympics.
Oh, nice. Did you get tickets?
We didn't get tickets. No, we will get tickets through our sponsorships.
Oh, nice. Oh, amazing.
For some of the matches. But so the idea is that people will use Fuego, like athletes will record things about like training and stuff in different areas of Paris. And then like the only way for people to connect with those athletes is to go to the place where they left that voice note.
Wow.
So it generates like a little walk, and then like you're like in the person's footsteps, like an immersive audiobook, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got athletes doing this?
Yeah, we have athletes doing this. Yeah. We're very lucky because the co-founder of Matt is actually in the French national fencing team.
So,
So he's a really good at multitasking. Yeah, he's in the French national fence team. He's been in it since he was 16.
Wow.
And so, he's got a lot of contacts in the Olympics. So we're able to do this quite easily. Yeah. So thankfully.
You did this hackathon. What happened after the hackathon? How did you meet that investor? Tell us a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So so during the hackathon, the jury was like executives from Google, and they told us, this is a really good idea. We'd really like to put you in front of investors, like make a pitch deck, etc.
Really?
I had no idea what a pitch deck was at the time.
So these people told you to do it?
Yes, they did. They did. At the time, I was so excited, But I think, what I did from there is we actually spent a year doing more brainstorming, because what I realized is we try to do a pitch deck, and I realized this In Your Footsteps idea is not solving a real problem. And if you're not solving a problem, there's not a lot of money to be made, and it's not really a startup. So the direction they put us in was think about a way to like replace TripAdvisor. Like think about the problems TripAdvisor like has. And so what we did is we'd go to like Heathrow Airport, we'd speak to tourists.
You went all the way to Heathrow.
Yeah. We actually spent almost a year brainstorming, at least 6 months brainstorming, because I think the really important thing is to have more than one like unique selling point, like more than one unique value proposition. Especially in the travel industry where there is so much money, it represents so much of the economy. Chances are, if you have an idea, someone else has already had it, and one of the big companies, you need to have a really, really good reason, especially for investors, why nobody's done it. Yeah. So we just wanted to have several ideas, several things to put together that really created a unique value proposition. And to do that, we wanted to speak to tourists as much as possible. So we went to Heathrow, spoke to people, did surveys, interviews. And came to this conclusion that, I think the problem is in Gen Z, is that the way we travel's changed, especially since COVID. We're much more compulsive. We spend so much money. And all these travel platforms are not they're not catered to Gen Z, because they used to not represent a lot of money, right? So there's no reason for them to.
A lot of people really plan holidays, a lot of the older generation, they really take time, but that's just not it anymore. People don't.
Exactly. Yeah, people don't. At least our generation don't. Some people still make Word documents like day one, day two. But no, people don't. And even if they do plan, they don't necessarily stick to the plan. So incorporating this idea was at the core of Fuego, essentially.
And that's really interesting, because a lot of founders I've spoken to, it feels that I thought people would just build apps straight away. But what it seems like, people really delve into the problem. They talk to their users. Imagine, did you say a whole year you were doing that?
A whole year. Yeah. But I think something which I had written down was that I think it's important, not necessarily to build the app, but Matt is really, really good at UI UX design. So if we have an idea, he'll be able to make like a UI mock-up of it really quickly. And it kind of, you can put it in front of a person, and you can even pretend it's a real working app.
What's UI for people who may not know?
Oh, it's a user interface. So it's everything you can see on the app. So you can like design the app without actually making it.
And that's a lot quicker and cheaper.
It's a lot quicker, yeah. You can, if you get good at it, and I would recommend picking up a course on UI UX design. Just getting the basics, even if it doesn't look great. You can, that way if you have an idea, it's a lot more valuable for you to actually put it into like a user interface, make it look help your team envision what you're seeing, essentially what you're thinking. So he's really good at that. So every time we'd have an idea, we'd be able to test it, actually make it, draw it. And I think that helps a lot. So I wouldn't make the app right away. I would definitely make the user interface, see what it looks like, show it to people, see
how they engage with
it
before you build it, because they might not even like it.
Exactly, before you build it, because things are going to change really quickly, unless you're a really quick programmer. Which is quite difficult. But yeah, I would say user interface.
So you went to Heathrow.
Yeah.
So I just kind of really want to dig in what happened at that hackathon. So how did you meet the investor? Like, when did you figure out you're dropping out? When did you travel to Heathrow? Okay,
so the timeline is the hackathon happened in November 2022. And then from then on, we tried to make a pitch deck, realized, okay, there's a lot more to be solved. Travel industry is actually very competitive. Just understanding the landscape through doing the pitch deck, just because you have all these slides you have to go through. So we said, okay, we need to do like real user research, understand what is the problem. During that time from January to April, we went through several different UI mockups, several different ideas. The idea changed so much. I look at the old UI now and I'm just like, wow, like things have changed a lot. We went through all these different ideas. And then, so I was actually doing a placement year. My co-founder was Imperial. I was doing a placement year at IBM.
Nice.
And I was doing all these job applications. And actually, so I started the placement year and received an offer for Bain & Company at the same time.
Whoa.
But then at the same time, I also met this investor. We met him completely randomly. My co-founder already knew him a little bit through like French networks. And he was selling he was renting out his flat, the one that we now set up an office in. And he said, well, it's way out of your budget. I mean, I don't know why we visited it, to be honest.
Oh, you mean your co-founder visited the French?
Yeah, we visited the flat knowing that it was completely out of our budget. And at the same time, we told him, oh, we have this startup. And then he pitched it very briefly. He said he was really interested. So we met with him several times. And eventually he said, well, I need you both full time. And then I'll believe in the project, I'll invest. And it ended up leaving IBM, which in any case, I think this was a much more interesting project. Yeah. And even throughout the year, we were still doing Imperial the year before. And I just realized I was spending so much more time on Fuego app than I was spending on Imperial. So the timeline is that Imperial finished my third year in July.
Then did the placement.
Yeah, then started the placement in July. And then in early September-ish, we meet the investor. And then halfway through September, I left IBM to work on this full time.
So how did the conversation go? So he was like, you need to leave. Were you like, okay, I'm gone?
Yeah, I mean, it was an exciting opportunity, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what's going through your mind is, somebody, like after a year of work, somebody's believing in your project. So it's just really exciting. I think we were both really convinced about and like really passionate about the project. So we thought there's nothing better than being able to live from it for at least a year and like see how it goes.
What happens.
So I deferred the grad offer as well, and then now I'm working on it full time.
Yeah, and I really like the fact that you went to the viewing,
yeah,
even though you knew it was out of your budget. It's like putting yourself in these situations that you don't really think you're quite qualified for, but then
absolutely,
hey.
Absolutely. I mean, it just randomly came out of the blue, to be honest, for this first angel investor. And what's interesting about him is he's also he's been very involved in the space. And he's also doing a PhD in AI, although he's like 56.
Good for him.
But he's doing a PhD in AI, which helps us also for the AI side of our app. So for us, it was a win-win scenario. I think if you have an angel investor who's also involved in the project, it's amazing, right? But sometimes you don't have the luxury to choose.
Yeah. They call it smart money because some investors just give their money and some give their insight. So it's great that you've got both, isn't it? Yeah. So these are some personal questions just to get to know you a little better.
Yeah, sure.
So what is your favorite app and why?
My favorite app? Can I have a think?
Have a think. Take your time.
Favorite app? What do I use the most?
Yeah.
Apart from social media.
Could be your favorite, maybe.
No, I try to stop using social media too much.
There's a love-hate relationship with it.
Yeah.
Mostly hate, actually. It's like you want to get off, but
yeah. These days, this is gonna sound very very geeky, but these days I play a lot of chess.
No way.
But I'm bad. I'm very bad. But I don't know. I recently paid for a chess premium.
No way.
So I've been doing all these courses on it, just because I feel like it's a good way to pass time.
Yeah.
I find it really interesting, and I keep watching videos of people playing, and I'm like, wow, I wish I was that good.
Good, yeah.
So I think I'd say chess.
The chess app.
Chess app, yeah.
Brilliant. And you told me, I think, that you wanted to be Elon Musk. I thought I'll bring it up. So I was going to say, like, why does he inspire you?
I mean, I think it's just his story, right? I mean, like, started from a really young age, immediately was able to build products that people actually wanted.
Yeah.
And I think it's this like bias for action that he has, right? Like,
he just
I want to do something, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it fast. And I think that's like one of the top qualities of like good founders is founders that, just think about something and then build the smallest possible thing that like, I think it's one of the things that I think we did wrong, right? Is that we did spend a lot of time brainstorming, but also you want to be releasing things and building things like as soon as possible, even if it looks bad. Nobody remembers the release.
No one remembers. Yeah, we were just chatting about that. Yeah.
Yeah. But to you, I think as a founder, it feels like it's so impactful. It's such a milestone, but it's not. To be honest, it's not. And that's what investors will say as well. I realize this. They'll say, like, you'll tell them I've released the product, and then they'll say, okay, what's the user retention? How many users do you have? That's what matters more than actually releasing the product.
Yeah. So he's still your favorite entrepreneur?
I think he's a controversial figure now, but I think I respect his like path to like, success. But also, Sam Altman.
Great. That we're coming on to that. Yeah, later. Yeah.
I don't know. I think if you reach this point in leadership where you leave the company and all your employees want to leave because you've left, then you're a good
huge.
Leader. Yeah. So don't know exactly what happened, the specifics, but I think that's also something which maybe a quality that Sam has that perhaps Elon Musk wouldn't.
Yeah, it's true.
So yes, maybe Sam Altman as well these days.
Well, it's funny, a bit random, but I saw Elon Musk on the Lex Fridman podcast, I think. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it.
He's just like whistling in the beginning, like he's just.
He's a character.
He's such a character, and he like
such a character.
Didn't stop, like, and then he's like, "Oh, you got to keep on going." And he's still like.
But I used to tell my friends that I wanted to be Elon Musk, and they used to make fun of me. But I think it just shows that I've always had this entrepreneurship, mindset. I've tried to found startups every year.
Yeah,
I would have an idea, but I think I wouldn't really be thinking about the problem I'm solving. So,
so you've just always had it in you. So, is there anything from your early life that points to you wanting to be an entrepreneur? Knew you were going to be an entrepreneur?
No, I think my interests changed throughout life. At some point, I wanted to be in the Secret Service. I was really into it.
I had a phase of that. It was
really? Everybody had a phase. I think it started when I started reading Cherub, the books.
What's Cherub?
It's a series of books about a teenage Secret Service agent.
Oh, fast, yeah.
I don't know. And then, but I think one thing about me is I'm always I'm an all or nothing kind of guy. Like, so I said I want to do Secret Service. I went to military school in France.
Oh my gosh!
Actually,
when you said all or nothing.
All or nothing. So I was really, really into it. And then I was really into Japan.
So you went to Japan?
I went to Japan, got the scholarship, went to Japan, then left to go to Imperial. I think it's always this thing of, I always go 100% in everything that I do. And I think that's also, a good quality of an entrepreneur. I'm not too sure when this entrepreneurship thing started. Probably my first year at Imperial. I think in the UK there's this culture of there's a good culture around entrepreneurship.
Yeah, now there's
a good support system, and there's people like yourself, and there's a good community, which means that I think you're more prone to wanting to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Probably.
And how did you learn to code?
Oh yeah, so I mean, this goes back to when I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Okay.
in my first year of uni, I wanted to build this app, like this productivity app. There was nothing special about it. It was called Hustle.
Nice.
And I essentially wanted it to be like a timer. Like, I don't know if you use the Forest app.
Yes.
Yeah, like Forest, but you essentially have a pet that you take care of, like a Tamagotchi.
I like that. I don't want Tamagotchi to come back.
Yeah, like a Tamagotchi, but for productivity. So we started building that, and I just really wanted to learn how to do that. So I started to learn how to code from there. And then at that point, I was using a platform called JetBrains Academy. I'm not sure if they're still free. At the time, they were free. But you should check it out. It's a project-based learning platform, which is really interesting. They'll give you like lectures on things, and then they'll give you a project to apply those things, and then slowly you're building the building blocks to a bigger project. And at the end of a course, then you'll have a full project that you've like built yourself. It's very satisfying. So I was using JetBrains Academy. Then in uni, did a bit of coding as well. And then I did software, like a couple software engineering internships, which definitely helped. But I do think coding is that one thing you can pick up at any point. It's so many resources online. I think it's easy to, it takes time, but like it's a satisfying thing to pick up, just because every time you pick up something new, you're able to build something new.
Yeah.
So it's just, it doesn't feel like hassle,
yeah. Because I assumed, since you are a technical guy building a technical app, I thought you would have had started as a child. So it's actually really comforting to know that you just started in your...
Yeah, I used to get frustrated about that. I mean, I used to see all these guys that, like in hackathons, I used to do a lot of hackathons, and I used to see people who say to me like, I've been coding since I was 12. Yeah. And it's just like, I'll never get as good as these guys. But I think it matters. You can still build very great things and learn very late. I mean, I learned when I was like, I wrote my first line of code when I was like 18, 19. So, and I'm now 21. So not so long ago, I was still building a startup. So if you're passionate, I think you just spend like, your free time on it, and it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. And what features do you have on your app, and how have you kind of coded them?
Okay. So I mentioned there's like a TikTok feed. There's like a TikTok feed. There's this AI optimization of your trip, like from a list of activities you're interested in, like optimizing like your travel. So you do this at 9, this at 10, this at 12. There's this, and then there's the chatbot, and then there's this in your footsteps idea, which I mentioned. I mean, there's a lot of features. It's a very big app. Yeah. I mean, this is why we have a team of 15, right?
Yeah. Did you hire all of them?
Sorry?
Did you hire all of them?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's working on passion.
Really?
I mean, I think I had a note about that. I think it's probably, we'll talk about it later, but I think that's the challenge, is keeping everybody passionate. Yeah. I think everybody was very related to the problem, which I think is an advantage that we had. It's a problem everyone's faced, finding things to do.
Like,
planning your trips, very much of a hassle. But like being an early stage startup, everybody's just working on like passion for the project, and in their free time on a part-time basis. So they're not hired in the sense that they're not employees. They're all co-founders in a sense, even though they came at a later stage. Yeah.
And how did you inspire people to come on your journey?
To come onto my team, right? So I think it started with my co-founder. I think so I did a hackathon on my own, but then immediately after, because I knew this guy was insane. I mean, he founded his first startup when he was like 16.
Really?
He's really like, he's hungry for
like
he's equally as passionate, equally as crazy. So immediately brought him on.
How did you find him?
He does my course. We were good friends.
Cool.
We actually did a lot of projects together throughout uni, because we were in the same groups all the time. So I knew he was, crazy guy. And then from there, I think it's about dreaming big. Yeah. Like, I think people are naturally inspired by people who dream big.
True.
And then say like, I'm like convinced this is the next big thing, and I actually am. This helps investors, but it also helps like your team, right? They see that you're just so engaged and working so hard on it that they feel immediately engaged as well. But something that I will say, I think that's important, is to create routine. I think routine is your motivation when like all else fails.
Wow.
Right. So yeah, like we meet the team in person every week on Tuesdays. And if we didn't have that, I think what we saw in the early stages of the startup is like people gradually lose a bit of motivation.
Yes, yeah, it happens naturally. Yeah.
Yeah. And you want everybody to share something that they've done. Even if they did something small, that gives them ownership over the task that they did, and then they feel proud of what they've done. And what you want to be able to deliver is something that's visible, very quick. Like when people see a new UI, like we've done the new user interface, it looks really nice. Take a look at this. Immediately, the whole team is really motivated. And another thing I'll say is what motivates the team a lot is competitions.
Wow.
Not winning them, but going together because.
You go together?
Yes, like the London team. So we have a team in London and Paris. The London team, we go to all. So we're a team of 15. Half of them in Paris, half of them in London. I forgot to mention that. The reason for that is I had a long friend of like 8+ years, who's our CTO. It's called Luke. And yeah, so I called on to him as well after. So I called Matt, then called Luke. And Luke goes to a school in France, a uni in France, where they only do computer science.
Whoa.
Only computer science. It's like this really, really niche school for people who are really passionate programmers. So he had friends then that also were very good at what they do. So he got his friends to join as developers. So he took in the rest of the dev team, and then I found the London team.
Yeah.
So that's how we got to get such a big team, essentially. But yeah, half in London, half in Paris. And the London team, every time we go to a competition, we'll go together. Because there's something satisfying about it. It almost feels like you're going to war with them.
Yeah.
You know, you like walk into this room full of investors, like, okay, we're in this together. And I think investors really like it. They're like seeing this huge team.
They're like, you brought all these people here, you must be doing something.
Yeah. It's really satisfying. And then when you're pitching, I look at them, I'm like, yeah, this is why I'm here. So it also gives you confidence, right?
Yeah.
You're with a team, and we're able to like complement each other on like our CFO can complement the financials a bit more than I can. And then when the CTO comes to London, then we're able to complement each other really well.
So all these insights you've shared, like how did you learn it? Because you've never built a team before, you've never led a team. Like how did you just figure out the routines you need to do, bringing people together? Like
in the military school, they have these quotes that you have to like memorize and things. And there was this quote, I'm trying to translate from the French, but it was like, if you want to be a leader, in order for them to walk, you have to run. In order for them, like you always have to do more. Like it's about leading by example.
You can say it in French if you want, if it's helpful.
Yeah. Si tu veux être chef un jour, sache à ceux qui se sont confiés. Si tu veux qu'il marche, faut courir. Anyways, it was something along those lines. The idea is you lead by example, and in past projects in uni. A project which I had done was like we built a Nintendo Switch controller for people with a disability called Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And what it entails is they essentially lose control of their muscles over time. Like it affects young boys.
Oh, really?
And, it affects only young boys. They lose control of their muscles, and eventually they can only use their fingertips.
Is it something that's curable?
No, it's not.
Oh, really? Interesting.
It's a degenerative disease that you just have to live with it, and then your life expectancy is about like 20. You live till 25 to 30. You're just born with it. It's genetic. So what ends up happening to these boys is that they can't engage with sports and with competitive activities from a really young age, because then they have to be in a wheelchair. Even if they can use their arms, they can't walk from, I think it was the age of 13, 14-ish. So we had to work with this charity to build Nintendo Switch controllers. The idea being that they engage in like esports a lot more. Like,
nice. So they're still engaging in
exactly,
that sport.
Exactly. So it's kind of like doing sports if you're playing FIFA.
Fairs,
in a sense, at least to them, it was really, really important.
Yeah.
Except that as they lose control of their hand, their hand gets fixed in a specific position, like it gets paralyzed in a specific position, which means that at some point they can't grip onto normal controllers. And if you think of a Nintendo Switch controller, it's really small. And they have an adaptive controller, but you have to have your hands flat, which they can't have. So the idea was to build, like, I'm talking about a completely different project here.
No, but still really interesting, yeah.
The idea was to build a controller that fits into their natural hand position, like a cylinder, and then with like armrests, so they can maximize the time that they can play without getting tired. Because even moving their fingertips is a really tiring move for them to do. So it would just fit around the hand, and then they can like rest their hands on it. And then we built the controller from scratch as well. So we looked at how like Nintendo Switch controllers are made from the inside, like reverse engineered it, tried to figure out how it works. Ended up managing to make a Nintendo Switch controller. Not sure how legal that is.
Yeah,
but it was for charity, so not selling it the product. And all this to say, throughout this project, I think what I started to realize was that I wanted to be involved in everything. Right?
Yeah.
I was like, I need to do it as much as possible so people are inspired to do more.
Yeah.
In reality, I don't think that's the case. I think what ended up happening, there's like designing the controller, that was one task, and there was doing the code for the controller, that's another task, and doing the electrical engineering of it, another task. And I wanted to be involved in everything, but in doing that, people will assume that you'll do it for them.
Yeah, because you're always part of what.
Exactly. They lose ownership of what they've done. They can't say, I did this. They'll say it was like 50% Nico and like 50% me. And so they lose ownership, and they're also not responsible for anything themselves. And I think that's a big mistake. So I think the military school idea of, you lead by example is not exactly true in practice in a startup. The best thing you can do is show people that they have impact, which is why we have these weekly meetings where people proudly present what they've done throughout the week, no matter how small. So I think it's just, I made a lot of mistakes. And then about the specifics of fundraising, I think we're in the struggles right now.
Yeah, that's what I want to touch on that. Yeah. So I wanted to comment on that idea of you giving people ownership, because I think as a founder, you always want to get your fingers in everything and wanting to do everything like, I could tweak it, look this way, but people don't, as you said, feel that sense of ownership, and the team can't grow if you're always like in everything,
Yeah.
So that's really important. But the next section of the podcast is called Would You Rather?
Okay.
Again, just to get to know you a bit better.
Sure.
So would you rather start a tech company with Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, or Elon Musk?
Steve Jobs.
If he was alive, actually, yes.
Steve Jobs.
Oh, Steve. Oh, that was your answer. Okay.
Yeah, Steve Jobs for sure. I mean, his vision, first of all, his passion when he would speak about the products, right? Like, I think there is no better product manager in the world than Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs, incredible. I mean, everybody's watched that iPhone presentation.
Yeah.
I think he had really, really good vision for Apple, and I would love to get his insights. In general. And also he's a great speaker, right? I've watched so many podcasts from him, like things he's recorded when he was alive. Insane.
He's such an inspiration. Like, I actually got a blue turtleneck in inspiration of him.
Really?
Yeah, I know, it's a bit cringe, but
Well, I have one of the black turtlenecks.
Oh, do you have the black
well?
one? Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could have dinner with one of these founders, would you rather have dinner with the CEO of Netflix, the CEO of YouTube, or the CEO of TikTok? To have dinner with.
Oh, that's tricky, actually. That's tricky. I mean, both. I'm hesitating between Netflix and TikTok.
Are you?
Yeah, because I think Netflix has this really interesting recommendation and algorithm, like the way that Netflix manages recommending you films. It seems as though they've almost solved this problem of finding movies.
They have actually.
Yeah, they have, and part of it is because they're very lucky that people initially use Netflix and they were looking for something specific. So you have a starting point. I think. Well, I'd love to get his insights on that, solving this idea of recommending things. But at the same time, TikTok.
Yeah.
Very interesting AI company to begin with. I think they were an AI company before they bought Musically. And
really? First?
Yeah. So they were already really good at AI. I don't know how much the CEO would share with me.
Yeah.
So I think because of that, I think that's a Netflix just because of the history of it, the process of building Netflix must have been really interesting.
Yeah, and this when I was thinking of this question, it reminded me of another question, and I was wondering, would you rather have dinner with Jay-Z or $500,000? Have you heard that meme?
I've never heard that meme, actually.
There's this massive meme that would you rather have dinner with Jay-Z or 500K?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, have you heard it? Yeah.
Dinner with Jay-Z or 500K. I mean, I can invest that in the startup. I mean, yeah, hopefully I can like make enough money to then have dinner after having.
Yes, I like your thought process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eventually, hopefully he'll want to have dinner with me.
Yeah. Okay, I like your
What
answer.
about yourself?
I'm taking the dinner because I feel that his insights and just knowing him, you know how you've got to like, just being in his sphere of like, I guess, influence. I think that could be really powerful.
That's true. Maybe he has contacts.
Maybe he has contacts, and 500K, I feel it's less unique. I mean, not that I've ever made 500K, but like I feel that. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, actually, like the networking.
Yeah, the networking aspect.
It's fun. It would probably be fun to chat with Jay-Z. Yeah.
And would you rather be a boxing champion, because I know you like boxing, or build a unicorn startup?
Oh. Build a unicorn startup. I mean,
really, Fairs.
If I were to say something else, I think my team would kill me.
They'll be like, what? Like, we followed you on this journey.
Yeah, no. I think build a unicorn right now.
Yeah.
I think me, when I was 16, would have said the boxing champion. But now, obviously, my focus has changed. I haven't done boxing in a long time. So, yeah.
Fair enough. And this is the final question. If you could time travel, would you rather go to the past or to the future?
Oh. I'd go to the past, I think. Not sure what I would change. I didn't do enough introspection to know what I would change. But I think I'd go to the past, yeah. I don't know when.
Yeah, what point?
What point? I go to the past and I mean, if you were ahead of the game in the AI space, then maybe you'd be very rich or
very
invest in Bitcoin. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would do, but probably in the past. Yeah.
Past. Brilliant. The final section of this podcast is called RealiTEA, like while you drink your bubble tea. So we want to know, just a few more things about your reality as a founder. So have you made any sacrifices to build this business?
Yeah, I mean, I left IBM, but I don't consider that too much of a sacrifice. I think you shouldn't underestimate sacrificing your time.
Yeah.
Right? There's one of the biggest angel investors in Africa called Tommy Davies that we met last week. And he's really interesting. What he says to investors, some investors will say, have you invested money in your own startup? And he'll say, I've invested 100K. I've put in 6 months of my time. It's worth 100K. So, it's like your time is worth money.
It is, You
only got X many years in your youth.
True.
I think of it that way. Yeah, it's that. I'm spending a year working with no breaks, Monday to Sunday, no breaks. And it's a year you could spend having fun, going on holiday and things
Chilling,
like that. So you make sacrifice of your time mostly. And sometimes it's a bit difficult, to be honest, to have work-life balance. Something to be aware of. It is a lot of work. Yeah. You
work with your friend, but has any of your other relationships, has it taken a knock back because of all the time you spend working? We just really want to get the reality of this life.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of friends from, even last year, I think it started last year. Last year, because I was always so busy.
Yeah.
I think you find that you go out less and then you don't meet people. And eventually people kind of forget your existence.
True. The less you...
Yeah. And it's, if you're convinced about your project, it's not something to feel too bad about. I would say don't be like me and try to have a bit of a balance between things. Do take breaks. I would say it's really important to have extracurriculars. I think of my mental state versus my co-founders. My co-founder still does fencing.
Yeah.
And he's still high level athlete.
Yeah.
Wakes up at 5 a.m, goes for 10K runs. He's really, really organized. I think of myself a lot less organized. And I try to learn from him a lot from that. But I think it means that he's always in this calm space. No matter what happens, it's I'm quite calm too. I think it's in my personality. But I think having an extracurricular and something outside the startup that makes you see new people also gives you new ideas and
fresh perspectives.
Yeah.
And do you have any particular struggles as a young founder?
I mean, right now the key struggle is fundraising, right?
Yeah.
But I think that the issue is, as a young founder specifically, you can be an insane individual that still won't convince people to invest in you. I think, people say that they invest in people, but I think, especially in the UK where there's less money being given out, I think it's not enough. You actually, oftentimes they say that we're too young. Which
is
not really annoying thing to be said. Yeah,
because you can't change that. Yeah,
can't change that. What am I supposed to do about it? You know, and the good. What I reply is that, you know, we're young, but that means that we mastered this new tech, which we've just learned at uni.
We understand the users we're serving.
Exactly. You know? And we're literally the users we're serving. So I think that's the challenge is people saying that we're too young. And what I would say is for new founders, something that's really important is to have someone in your team who has domain expertise. Like you're doing tourism, have someone who's old and doing tourism. Hopefully they've even started a startup, exited, made millions from it, and then they're still in your team, because that is the best thing
the intersection of like old and new to work together. Because
what VCs do is that, it's funny, I look at the stats, like when we send them a pitch deck, you can see what slides they looked at.
Really?
Like on DocuSend. So I look at like what slides they look at. They look at the problem, skip the solution entirely. They do not look at the solution. And then they look at the team, spend a bit of time with the founders, then look at your advisory board. And if they don't see something they like, they won't
continue.
Yeah, and then what they're looking for most of the time is somebody who has made it work, like somebody who's founded a startup, been there, done that, made millions, so that they can make millions too. And that's something we're struggling with right now, having that person in our team
to do that. And we want to end on a high. So
sure.
What are the 3 positives of running a business?
Okay, I think the first one is you're doing something that you really like. It's like doing a uni project. We had year-long projects, except that I chose to do this. It's my idea, and getting paid to do that is really gratifying. I think you create you get very close to your team. That's the second thing. I think the relationships you build. Our angel investor was saying that. He was saying that I do this now less for the money, more so for the relationships that you build. Like, because like I said, it's almost like going to war together. You know, it's like you get very, very close to your team, work together 24/7. That's number 2. And then number 3, I think I learn a lot. So you can get involved into anything that you're interested in. Like, I've always really liked AI. Never been a professional in AI, but always really been interested in like the technology behind it. So I can learn from my own AI team, see how they do things. Like, they write really good like documentation. I can read it. I'm like, oh, that's how it works. You know, I think that's really satisfying. Yeah.
So Nico, do you have any advice for aspiring young entrepreneurs?
Yeah, definitely. I think I would say dream big, but have somebody in your team who's down to earth. Like, as a CEO, think unicorn, think next big company, but have that one CTO who's like, no, we're not going to be the next TikTok. For now, we're going to just make photos. So have that and build things fast, very fast. And most importantly, like YC, Y Combinator, they have this motto, which is make something people want. So make sure people actually want it, and speak to users, right? And I would say a 5th thing actually, which is have a really good answer for why has the competition not done it? What do you understand that they don't understand? It's not that, don't assume the competition's like not smart. And that you're smarter. Actually have a really good reason to understand what's changed that's made this competition outdated. I think that's really important.
Thank you so much for being here, Nico. That was a really interesting conversation.
Pleasure to speak to you. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Perfect.
I've loved having the conversation with Nico. I think we can all be really inspired by his 100% approach to the things he does. And if you found any part of this podcast useful, please like, comment, and share with your friends. And we really hope you start your business soon.